Well, hello again. This is Donna Tornoe, your host, and I'm going to go over today the IG investigation, or begin chapter and verse. I'm going to go over tab 1, the report that was written by Alvin Young. This report is used all the time to deny veterans of Panama. And so Exhibit 1 was called Investigations into the Allegations of Agent Orange in the Canal Zone and Panama Canal Zone, written by Dr. Alvin Young, who is one of the Agent Orange experts that the VA uses to deny veterans. So let's go over the evidence. At the time, I was working with an attorney, the attorney working for my husband at the time, Sean Rabin, and I asked him what should I do because I believe that the evidence is clear that it was used in Panama and that we need help. So he said that I could file for an IG investigation. I could call the office of the IG, which I did, and I told them my allegations. And they said that with these allegations, I should go to the top. So I filed an IG investigation request to the Inspector General's office and to the President and the VA Secretary, the Undersecretary, and the committees of the Senate and the House Committee. I sent them at my own cost, over $300 to all these places. They said they didn't get it, but at any rate, so on behalf of the veterans and dependents of the Panama Canal Zone who have a presumptive disease due to the dioxin TCDD contamination and have been wrongly denied, and as president of the Panama Canal Zone Veterans Association, I request the Inspector General to open an IG investigation into the incongruencies of facts and testimony which have denied veterans who have legitimate claims having been exposed to the same item, Agent Orange, as used in Vietnam, and having presumptive diseases as outlined in 38 Code of Federal Regulations, CFR 3.309. It seems the Veterans Administration Compensation's belief that Agent Orange was never shipped, stored, used in Panama is based solely on Dr. Alvin Young's report, Investigation into the Allegations of Agent Orange in the Canal Zone and Panama, dated 2012, which is Exhibit 1, Tab 1, Volume 1, and the History of the United States Department of Defense Programs for the Testing, Evaluation, and Storage of Tactical Herbicides, December 2006, which is Tab 2, Volume 1, written by none other than himself, Alvin L. Young, PhD. So Alvin Young is the author of the report he sources as fact. Are we to believe a circular source as fact? We do not, for the reasons as outlined below. The real historical facts tell a different story. I think you will agree with our conclusive research that Panama should be immediately added to the list of places where 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T, aka Agents Purple or Orange, depending on the year, were shipped, stored, and used at all bases for vegetation control. The Panama veterans have been wrongly denied for decades because of incorrect information provided by reports written by Dr. Alvin Young, even though it is apparent from our research that he knew there was absolutely no difference between the 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T used in Vietnam or used around base for vegetation management. As early as 1978, I write in my letter, but I know now, 1970, he knew. Because of this information he has provided to the Veterans Administration, knowing it to be false, these veterans are greatly suffering physically, financially, and emotionally. Please investigate. Sincerely, Donna Tornoe, President, PCVA, and I included the 20 exhibits. The first exhibit is called The Investigations into the Allegations of Agent Orange in the Canal Zone and Panama, 2012. This was written by Dr. Alvin Young and is used to deny veterans. This 2012 report written by Alvin Young about Panama can be seen on my personal website, donnatornoe.com, but in his 2012 report on the use of tactical herbicides used in the Panama Canal Zone, he writes, the disclaimer says, quote, the conclusions reached in this report are based upon a comprehensive review of the historical records maintained in the publicly available files of the National Archives and Record Administration and other archival repositories.
However, the conclusions reached do not necessarily represent those of the Department of Veterans Affairs or any other department or agency of the United States government. End of quote. And yet the VA has paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to Alvin Young, in my tab 3, volume 1, to maintain the documents pertaining to Agent Orange, and he has not provided all records as his contract requested regarding Agent Orange that are available publicly. The disclaimer goes on to say, quote, "This report is part of the Agent Orange investigative report series and should be considered as an amendable or living document. If additional authenticated documents or records are found that address the topic of this report, a reevaluation of the conclusions may be necessary." End of quote. By this statement, Dr. Alvin Young admits there could be additional authenticated information he did not find, and I have found such authenticated documents and records, the U.S. exports, for example, that address several topics of this report and make reevaluation of the conclusions of this report absolutely necessary. I have given these conclusive facts to the VA on behalf of my husband and on behalf of the veterans of Panama Canal Zone, only to be denied. In Dr. Young's report on Panama, under allegation number 1, he states Agent Orange was extensively used in Panama and Canal Zone from 62 to 75, which would be the allegation that the veterans have claimed. Dr. Alvin Young's findings, quote, "Extensive reviews were conducted of Department of Defense directives on commercial use of herbicides maintained by the Armed Forces Pest Management Board and the records of the Army Chemical Corps on tactical herbicides. The conclusions of these reviews are that the allegations of the use of Agent Orange in Panama and the Canal Zone from 1963 through 1975 are not based on any credible supporting documentation." End of quote. Our findings of fact: the official U.S. Census Bureau, Schedule B, Commodity by Country, the FT 410, shows this as so. In fact, both Agents Purple and Orange, depending on the year, was shipped to Panama for decades. Millions of pounds of Agent Purple, Orange, and other herbicides not elsewhere classified, called NEC, as shown as shipped, stored, used in Panama throughout the years. Testing first began in what was then the Panama Canal Zone in 1943, as referenced in my book, The Travels of Orange, reference number 14. 1958 was the very first year that Agent Purple 24D and 245T was shipped as its own item, in other words, the nomenclature 24D and 245T. Prior to those years, this item was lumped together with all herbicides and shipped as NEC, not elsewhere classified. What's so weird is Dr. Alvin Young, earlier in 1970, March of 1970, he wrote a report as a first lieutenant in the Air Force on military herbicides and insecticides called Technical Notes AFATL-TN-70-1, March 1970, Non-Explosive Munitions Division for the Air Force Armament Laboratory. And in the introduction it says, "This pamphlet has been compiled by the Assessments Branch of the Non-Explosive Munitions Division, Air Force Armament Laboratory, to acquaint Air Force personnel with information on military herbicides and insecticides. The herbicides mentioned in this pamphlet are those currently in use in military programs. The insecticide information incorporated herein pertains to those insecticides in the Air Force inventory and those having potential application in military pest control programs." If you flip to page 3 of his report, he lists a chart there, and he lists the military codes, orange or purple, and the trade name, brush killer, and the common name, 24D and 245T, and the scientific name is 24D and 245T, and I'm not going to mispronounce that big long word, but you can read it for yourself. But at any rate, those codes, purple, orange, pink, white, blue, all the rainbows, those were just codes. And they were normal herbicides that were used throughout the military. But as we see in the Federal Supply Catalog, Agent Orange was available to any facility that ordered it. And as we see inside the federal stock catalog, we see Agent Orange is orderable, and they want to make sure that you put an orange stripe around the 55-gallon drum when you order it. It seems that Dr. Alvin Young, being involved in Agent Orange as an Air Force person and as a working on the Agent Orange working group for the President of the United States, would know these facts. The Pesticide Review Board throughout the years were the ones that where people ordered up what pesticides they needed and kept track of all the pesticides used. The Pesticide Review Board consisted of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Health and Education Welfare Department, and the Department of Interior and the DoD. If you go to that link for the pesticide review reports that were put out by these board members, you can see the production and the exports, and they source the FT410. FT stands for Federal Trade, and that is how most of it was shipped. This is just another page by searching through for Vietnam or 245T in the pesticide review link. This is from 1958 to 1967 and shows the production and the exports, and sources the U.S. Census Bureau report that I had found. If you need these shipments for the year that you were in Panama, you can get these on my personal website, donnatornoe.com, and go to the download page. I have them all in one document, so just download the whole document. I have it from 1958 to December of 1977. We received 240 and 245T almost monthly. Lucky for us, there are pictures from the Pan Canal Review of men actually using herbicides to defoliate in Gatun Lake, which was our water source. Lucky for us also, there's a report from the State Department, was the watershed project in the Canal Zone between 1952 and 1976, depicting how much defoliation was done between 52 and 76, the same period of time that these defoliants were shipped to Panama. Then we have the report from December 1976, when Aberdeen came down to test for persistent pesticides at Fort Davis, at the base that I was at that time. I might have even said good morning to them. What did they find at Fort Davis and also on the Pacific side? That the pesticides and herbicides used in the Canal Zone were above average based on their what they used on other installations. Well, this is just a small sampling of the information that I have dug up so far, and I'll have more in my videos, so watch for more videos. But what you can do for me and for yourselves is you could join the Military Veterans Advocacy. It costs $25 a year to support the Military Veterans Advocacy, and I am now the director for the Panama Canal Zone Veterans. And we sure could use your help to get this over the finish line. This information has gone forward in the rulemaking request, which you can see when you go to the Military Veterans Advocacy under Projects and then under Panama. Well, thanks a lot for listening, and tune in for the next video where we go over allegation number 2 of Exhibit 1 of 20 exhibits.